Today's headlines: AU monitoring and verification team says Tigray forces started to hand over heavy weaponries according to the deal. Ethiopian Athletics Federation delegation led by its president Daraartu Tulluu arrived at Maqale Alula Abanaga International Airport earlier today. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Lalam Tejano with the news. Ethiopian Athletics Federation delegation led by its president Daraartu Tulluu arrived at Maqale Alula Abanaga International Airport earlier today. The president landed at the airport alongside three world records holders, Letsembet Gide, as well as world athletics champions Koteitum Gabrselassie and Godifai Tigrai. The delegation was warmly welcomed by Tigray Deputy President Fetlor Gebresgabier and other Tigray government officials. The welcoming ceremony was held in the presence of family members and loved ones. Following the arrival of the president of the Athletics Federation, President Debretsion Gebremichael welcomed the former athlete at his office. Debretsion thanked the president of the federation and the athletes who, despite going through ups and downs for the past 2 years, were able to score multiple achievements. President Debretsion also expressed his government's commitment to help the federation in any way possible. Saron Sakai has the details.
President of Tigray, Dr. Debretsion Gebremichael, welcomed President of the Ethiopian Athletics Federation, Daraartu Tulluu, at his office. Dr. Debretsion started his speech by expressing his gratitude towards the former athlete for standing with the people of Tigray during the hard times.
What Daraartu did for Tigrayan athletes during the time where the Tigrayan people were under a difficult situation, during the time where even getting physically close to a Tigrayan was scary, was remarkable. Even though it is her responsibility, not everyone was a responsibility at that. When Tigrayan athletes were faced with difficulties, Be it at the airport or anywhere, she was always there for them and had led them to their victories. And I want to thank her on behalf of our people, our government, and myself for what she has done so far.
Dr. Debretsion also thanks the athletes who, despite going through a lot for the past 2 years, were able to score multiple achievements. He also noted that many Tigrayan athletes inside Tigray have also been faced with worse conditions and cautioned that many still continue to live under the same circumstances due to the presence of external forces.
የትግራይ ህዝብ ባለፈው 2 ዓመታት ከፍተኛ ውጣ ውረድ ነው ያለፈው።
The people of Tigray have been through a lot for the past 2 years. We were collectively being punished by starvation, disease, by mass murder. Even now, while we are at relative peace, due to the deal, Eritrean and Amhara forces are continuously committing atrocities. Athletes, as part of the people, have been killed, detained, and some were forced to leave their country.
Darartu Tullu on her part said that even though it's late, she's glad to see both parties sitting around the table and committed for a peaceful end to the war.
የዛሬ 2 ዓመት ምናልባት ጥቅምት 22 ከርሱ ጋር እዚሁ ቢሮ አውርቼ ነበር
2 years ago on November 1, 2 days before the outbreak of the war. I remember my discussion with President Debretsion at this very office. I was saying that both parties should solve their issues through talks only. I'm glad that they're doing that even though it's a bit late. Darartu said that her visit to Mekelle is mainly focused on reuniting the Tigrayan athletes who have been away from their families and home for the past 2 years with their families and assessing the damage on the athletics sector in Tigray.
ሁለተኛ ደግሞ በትግራይ ብሔራዊ ክልል መንግስት ያሉት አትሌቲክስ ፌዴሬሽኑን
We are here with our experts from several departments and we are here to assess the damage and help the regional athletics federation and bureau. Of course, we didn't have enough time to discuss everything thoroughly, but I promise that we will be back to assess our projects here and visit our training center. We've been told that all our centers and projects have completely been destroyed and that we should support the sport here, and I also appreciate your government for the promise to cooperate with us any way possible.
ለማንኛውም እኛ በአትሌቲክሱም በሌላው ነገር አብረን ለመስራት እንፈልጋለን። ከሁሉም በላይ ግን ያላችሁን ክብር
We are committed to help your office in any way possible, and I thank you all for showing your respect for our people.
ደራርቱንም ሌሎቻችንም በጣም እናመሰግናለን።
Ethiopian Athletics Federation President Darartu Tullu also called for the removal of flight restriction imposed on young travelers from Tigray. The president said this while meeting President Debretsion at his office this afternoon. The athlete, who is known for her repeated appeal for peace, has once again reiterated her call to both governments to gain the trust of the people by avoiding such acts and allow the free movement of people within Ethiopia.
ምናልባት አሁን ስንመጣ ሰሞኑን ስንመጣ ለጉዞ ስንዘጋጅ ምናልባት
When we were preparing to come here, we heard that flight restrictions had been imposed on a certain age group. For the people to trust the government, for us not to lose the lights of hope that we are seeing, for our happiness to be complete, this restriction needs to be removed. We call on our governments to not restrict the movement of people to and from Tigray, to let us move freely.
ሰው ይውጣ ይግባ መንግስቶቻችን አትከልክሉ እኛም
AU's team for monitoring, verification and compliance mission officially launched DDR process as per the Pretoria peace deal. The team alongside the Tigray and Ethiopian forces representatives visited Agula in eastern Tigray, where heavy weaponaries belonging to the Tigray Defense Forces were piled up. AU's monitoring and verification team observed the process and appreciated the commitment shown by both parties to implement the peace deal signed. Let's take a look.
Sammy, give it to Mike. And Mike can come back. Come, Sammy.
The team says Tigrayan forces have started to give heavy weaponries according to the deal. In briefing this afternoon in Maqala, the team said it has witnessed Tigrayan forces handing over their weapons to the Ethiopian National Defense Forces in a garrison around Akula. Let's take a look again.
Of course, today, 10th of January 2023, we are here to witness a crucial aspect of our assigned task as enshrined in Article 6 of the Ceasefire Declaration, which is the disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration program. The effort that you are seeing today, or the ceremony you are seeing today, is a step in the right direction in achieving the African Union aim of silencing the guns by the year 2030, which translates to solving African problems by Africans. Of course, this step will assist to restore constitutional order and guarantee safety and peace for all. In total, we have seen the handing and taking over of military hardware by both the Tigrayan Defense Forces and Ethiopian National Defense Force. Of course, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. As part of the compliance mandate, we will articulate the effort and inform the respective parties and the Joint Committee accordingly. Let me appreciate the efforts of our high-level panel consisting former President Olusegun Obasanjo of Nigeria, former President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the former Vice President of South Africa for their unspared efforts in seeing to the ceremony we are witnessing today. I will implore all parties involved to ensure that this process is forged ahead to a reasonable conclusive end, so that all our brothers in the hinterlands will enjoy a peaceful environment and atmosphere.
Ethiopian forces and Tigrayan forces representatives on their part said they have peacefully carried out what they called a milestone progress. Ethiopian National Defense Forces liaison officer Lieutenant Colonel Alamu Taddese says NDF has received the weapons in the presence of African Union observers. His equivalent from the TDF, Mulgeta Gebrehostos, also thanked the AU monitoring team and said Tigrayan forces will continue to commit themselves to the implementation of the peace deal.
የጋራ ስምምነት አድርጎ ትጥቆች መፈታት አለበት ብሎ በውሉ መሰረት በተግባባነው መሰረት
As per to the agreement, disarmament needs to be carried out. We have disengaged from our front lines. TDF has also done the same. We have done this by agreement. Now we have come to Ogla. On this day, we have met on a garrison in Ogla where the heavy weapons were piled up. We have received these weapons. We have received the weapons from the Tigrayan forces in the presence of African Union observers.
I would like to say thank you for all the cooperation and coordination that you are giving us. لمعنتي officially أبتم زحلفونا سلام سمعنتات بريتوريا بنيروبي.
Today we have officially launched the disarmament process in Agula according to the agreement signed in Pretoria and Nairobi. We have carried out these in the presence of all concerned bodies. We handed over the armaments peacefully.
Tigrayan youngsters say they are banned to move out of Tigray. Passengers who recently traveled to Tigray by Ethiopian Airlines say they have no idea about who issued the restriction. Meanwhile, they are forced to remain separated from their family members who live in Addis Ababa. Let's take a look.
After the signing of a peace deal, many people understood that the 2 years gruesome war and the siege imposed on Tigray would come to end. The restoration of some basic services such as electricity, telecommunication and airline transportation gave glimmer of hope for those in dire need in Tigray. However, Alua Abanaga International Airport in Mekelle, which is currently under the control of federal government, is banning US passengers from moving out of Tigray starting from Saturday. Passengers who recently traveled to Tigray by Ethiopian Airlines say they are unable to return back to their family members in Addis Ababa.
I came to Tigray to mourn for mother's death. My children are living in Addis Ababa, but I can be able to return back to them as I am banned from traveling back to home. Most of the passengers that are restricted to move out of Tigray are youngsters and even elders up to 70 years. But we still do not know who issued the ban. We have no idea whether it is the federal government or the Tigrayan authorities that commanded the restriction. Many passengers, including children and elderly, are suffering here and no one knows who is behind all this. I don't know why people in Tigray are condemned to live in such kind of misery this all.
አየር ቲኬት ካብ አዲስ አበባ ሲንግል በረራ ልተቆረጠ ሰብ ህዚ መንእሰይ ኮይኖም ክል 15 60 ዘሎ ታጓጉሉ ይቀርሎ.
Youngsters between the ages of 15 to 65 who booked one-way ticket to Addis Ababa are bound to move out of Tigray. Many of the passengers voiced their disappointment about the restriction.
Lamma Yadecha, Chief Commercial Officer at the Ethiopian Airline, told BBC the airline has no awareness of such restriction. He also added that the Ethiopian Airline does not have a restriction regarding age and sex, as it is governed by rules and regulations. So the airline hasn't restricted anyone so far, and this could be verified by looking at the website of the airline. The passengers banned from moving out of Tigray expressed their fear that such kind of restriction might negatively affect the signed peace deal between the governments of Tigray and Ethiopia.
We need immediate solution, whether from the government of Ethiopia or Tigray. We all need to know who is behind the restriction and demand an immediate solution.
አየር ላይንስ ጀሚሩ ባል ከሎ ንኹሉ እዩ ንኹሉ ዜጋ እዩ ዝብል.
We have been feeling very happy about the resumption of airline transportation in Tigray, and we thought it was for everyone, but it isn't. The passengers here were very happy by the signing of the peace deal and very anxious to meet their family members who live in Addis Ababa. I think this is an issue that needs an immediate solution.
According to the employees of the Mekelle Alula Abanaga International Airport, the restriction is only temporary, and its intention is to give priority to elderly and sick passengers.
Health experts in Tigray say the siege imposed on Tigray has been forcing them to go through tough times for the past 2 years. A Gide nurse at Eider Specialized Hospital says she faced psychological crisis as the hospital she works in couldn't provide any medical supplies for the patients who continuously visit hoping to get service. Nahum Hadgu reports.
Sister Gide has been serving her community as a nurse for more than 10 years, and now she's working on helping diabetic patients. Atsede remembers how the 2 years war on Tigray devastated her and her colleagues.
It was difficult to see the patients, who are really close to you more than family, return back to their homes empty-handed, as we can't provide them anything, and to see them starving and suffering with man-made problems while they have money in their bank accounts, and this leads to psychological crises.
Atsede also says she had to pass through tough time for herself as the hospital has no medical supplies to treat the patients. She also speaks about the times when she had experienced pains and illnesses as she hears the patients' problems on her daily basis and as she herself suffers from internal disease.
It really saddens me to see my patients who used to control themselves and teach others as well go blind or lose other parts of their bodies due to lack of medication. My daily life is full of stress. There were times when I used to feel headaches, and also there were times I was about to be fully paralyzed before 3 or 4 months. And the fact that I have internal disease complicates everything on my side.
The diabetic patients we spoke on their part say that they only receive piece of advices from her that gives them hope as they couldn't get any medication due to the siege imposed on Tigray.
She respects the entire patient. She gives you treatment even when there are no medicines available.
She understands our condition that is apparently seen on our face, and she treats you very well.
Atsede's husband, Dr. Sisai, on his part expresses his wife's difficult condition in the past 2 years.
As a health professional, you may experience some emotional moments, but she is more than that. She cries until her eyes damaged. I remember a time she fainted.
Atsede also tells us that doctors in Tigray for themselves are patients, stating that the signed peace accord has brought her a glimmer of hope.
We only speak about the patients. The doctors themselves are patients now in Tigray because they left their children at home without adequate food. They're also facing social problems as they are serving their community as they had sworn to do so. I hope that the signed peace deal will take everything in Tigray to normalcy.
That's it for this edition. Until next time, bye for now.